Chawla, Bharatanatyam dancer, disciple of Guru Srimati Geeta Chandanji and an arts educator. We are going to study about the interaction between the arts in India. India's cultural landscape is shaped by a vast constellation of art forms that have originated, flourished, diversified and interacted over several millennia. These artistic traditions include the well-established classical systems of dance, music, theatre, painting, sculpture and literature, as well as a wide range of folk and tribal arts that express the lived experiences of diverse communities. In recent decades, contemporary and digital media arts have also become an integral part of India's creative ecosystem, further expanding the spectrum of artistic expression. Each of these art forms possesses its own distinct vocabulary, grammar, technique, symbolism, and pedagogy. Mastery in any one discipline demands sustained practice, deep immersion, and continuous engagement under skilled guidance. Despite having their own aesthetic identities, Indian arts have never evolved in isolation. They have grown through centuries for cultural exchange, philosophical dialogue, and institutional support. From the ritual practices of the Vedic period and the temple traditions of the classical age to the courtly aesthetic of medieval kingdoms and cosmopolitan influence of modern India. The Vedic worldview, which emphasized the unity of knowledge and interconnectedness of human experience, laid the foundation for a holistic understanding of the arts. This was further systematized in classical texts such as Bharatamuni Nāṭyaśāstra, which conceived theatre as a composite art form combining movement, music, poetry, visual design and emotional experience. Through such foundational treatises, Indian aesthetics promoted the ideas that one art form can eliminate and enhance another. For example, the dancer depends on music and literature. The musician relies on poetic compositions. The dramatist draws from gestures, movement and visual imagery, and the painter often interprets narratives and musical themes in visual form. This historical and philosophical interdependence means that the Indian artistic ecosystem functions as a web of interconnected disciplines, not as isolated silos. Artists, patrons, scholars and communities have traditionally engaged with multiple art forms simultaneously, creating a shared cultural vocabulary. The temple, the court, the community gathering and today's performance venues and media platforms have all served as spaces where different arts interact organically. As a result, learning or practicing one art naturally leads to an appreciation and often a study of others. This integrated approach enriches the artist's understanding, deepens their creative potential, and contributes to the holistic development of the individual. Indian art therefore celebrates not only the mastery of a chosen discipline but also the sensitivity and cultural literacy that arise from engaging with the wider constellation of artistic traditions. Now, let us study about the complexity and specialization in Indian artistic traditions. Mastery in any art form, particularly within the Indian cultural and aesthetic context, demands a profound and sustained internalization of its medium, technique, philosophy, and performance ethos. Each artistic discipline operates through a highly specialized set of skills that must be absorbed not only intellectually but also physically, emotionally, and intuitively. For instance, a classical dancer must internalize Anga Shuddhi, which is body geometry, Tal, which is rhythm, and Abhinay, which is expressive language, and the subtle coordination between physical movement and inner emotion. This requires years of rigorous practice under the guidance of a guru, combined with conditioning of the body, refinement of the motor skills, and cultivation of interpretive sensitivity. Similarly, a musician must develop pitch alignment, which is Shruti Shuddhi, voice culture, breath control, raga grammar, improvisational ability, and an intuitive understanding of rhythmic cycles. These competencies evolve gradually through years of daily riyaz, listening, observing, and with the correction. Visual artists, on the other hand, must grasp composition, color theory, brush technique, proportion, iconography, symbolism, material science, and contextual knowledge of philosophical or narrative sources. These too require long-term practice to achieve fluency and expressive depth. Because each art form demands such an intense and immersive training process, it becomes humanly impossible for any individual to attain equal mastery across all forms. The acquisition of expertise is not merely technical, it involves embodied memory, creative intuition, and an alignment of mind, senses, and emotions with the art's intrinsic nature. These elements cannot be rushed or superficially acquired, and they require devoted attention to one discipline over an extended period. Even within a single domain like music, the need for specialization becomes evident. Indian classical music itself is divided into intricate traditions such as Carnatic, Hindustani, Dhrupad, Khayal, Rabindra Sangeet, and more. Each with the unique aesthetics, vocal techniques, compositional forms, rhythm structure, and pedagogical methods. A performer typically dedicates their life to mastering only one of these traditions. Likewise, in Western classical music, specialization may occur in opera, orchestral performance, solo instrumental discipline, or composition. These examples show how that becoming a master in any art requires years of focused effort. Such depth cannot be divided across too many disciplines. Artistic growth is a transformative process that demands dedication, patience, and specialized training. Therefore, although learning about multiple art forms enhances one's outlook, true mastery in all of them cannot be achieved. This reality highlights the Indian tradition of cultivating broad artistic understanding while encouraging deep specialization. Now, let us study about the independent development of each art form. Although Indian art shares philosophical foundations and often intersect in performance and practice. Each art form has followed its own unique historical and aesthetic trajectory. This interdependence is visible in the way dance, music, painting, theatre, and literature evolved through distinct cultural forces, regional influences, and pedagogical frameworks. Dance, for instance, grew from temple rituals, Natya traditions, and community celebrations. Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kathak, Manipuri, and other classical forms emerged within specific social and spiritual contexts. Temple courtyards, Devadasi traditions, Vaishnavite monasteries, Mughal courts, and developed their own codified vocabularies of movement, expression, rhythm, and repertoire. Music followed an entirely different path shaped by devotional movements, Guru Shishya Parampara, court traditions, and later institutional formats. Carnatic and Hindustani music systems evolved separately with their own ragas, talas, improvisational methods, pedagogical philosophies, and performance conventions. Gharanas and Bani traditions added further layers of refinement, regionality, and lineage based identity. Visual art too have a distinctive lineage from prehistoric cave paintings to temple and murals of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, from Pahari and Mughal miniatures to Kalighat Pat. Each style developed its own visual language, techniques, materials, and symbolic systems. These were shaped by patronage patterns, religious iconography, and local artistic communities. Their evolution responded to socio-political shifts, migrations, and interactions with foreign artistic influences. Similarly, literature evolved with its own internal logic. Classical Sanskrit literature established systems of alankara, rasa, poetic meters, and dramaturgy, while regional languages nurtured their own literary traditions, idioms, and narrative structures. The literary imagination developed independently through epics, devotional poetry, medieval storytelling traditions, and modern reform movements. This autonomy allowed each art form to develop its own methods of training, rehearsal, creative process, and transmission. It resulted in specialized pedagogical systems, Nattuvannar lineages in Bharatanatyam, Gharana training in Hindustani music, Pattachitra workshop in Odisha, and regional literary schools of thought. Thus, while the arts shape philosophical kinship and often inspire one another, their independent evolution has ensured a vibrant diversity of techniques, aesthetics, and pedagogies. This distinctiveness is what enriches India's cultural landscape and provides depth to the interdisciplinary dialogues. Now, let us study about the common aesthetic foundation, which is rasa and bhava. Despite the independent evolution of various Indian art forms, a unifying aesthetic framework binds them together. At the heart of this unity lies the rasa theory, first codified in Bharata's Nāṭyaśāstra and later refined by philosophers like Abhinav Gupta. Rasa provides a shared vocabulary through which all Indian arts, performing, visual, and literary, articulate emotional and aesthetic experience. Rasa, often translated as aesthetic flavor or emotional essence, refers to the distilled emotional response that art evokes in the viewer. It is not a raw emotion but a refined contemplative experience that elevates the spectator to a state of aesthetic relish, which is Ras Ananda. This transformative experience is central to dance, music, theatre, poetry, and visual arts alike. In Indian classical dance, bhava, which is emotion expressed by the performer, transforms into rasa in the mind of the spectator through gestures, facial expressions, rhythmic movements, and narratives. Similarly, in music, a raga is capable of producing specific emotional atmospheres such as devotion, longing, serenity, or heroism through its tonal structure, ornamentation, and improvisation. A painter or sculptor achieves rasa through visual cues such as compositions, color, line, proportion, and iconographic symbolism. In literature, rasa is evoked through structured language, metaphor, rhythm of poetry, and the suggestive power of words. Connected to this is the concept of bhava, the emotion or mood conveyed by the artist. Bhava are the building blocks that lead the audience towards experiencing rasa. Bharata classifies these into Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vyabhichari Bhava, where Vibhava is determinant, Anubhava is consequent expression, and Vyabhichari Bhava is transitory feelings, forming a systematic process by which aesthetic emotion is generated. Another shared aesthetic principle is Dhwani, the theory of suggestion as proposed by Anandavardhana. Dhwani argues that the deepest aesthetic meaning of art arises not from direct expression but from what is implied. This subtlety is visible across forms, in poetry through symbolic imagery, in music through tonal inflections, in dance through nuanced abhinaya, and in visual art through layered iconography. Similarly, alankara, the ornamentation, forms a common conceptual thread, whether it is the decorative element of a sculpture, the gamakas in the raga, the intricate footwork of a dancer, or the poetic figures of speech in literature. Ornamentation enhances the beauty, depth, and emotional resonance of an artwork without overshadowing its essence. Thus, rasa, bhava, dhwani, and alankar function as the shared philosophical and aesthetic principles that bind Indian artistic traditions together. Despite differences in medium and techniques, these concepts ensure that all art forms participate in a larger cultural dialogue that aims to evoke universal human emotions and elevate the consciousness of the rasika, the sensitivity of and discerning spectator. Now, let's study about the interdependence of various art forms. While each Indian art form has its own identity and method of development, their practices reveals a deep and organic interdependence. This interconnectedness is not merely functional, it reflects a broader Indian worldview in which knowledge systems are integrated and mutually nourishing. No art form exists in isolation. Each draws strength, meaning, and expressive depth from the other. Music, for instance, cannot exist without the support of literature. Lyrics, whether devotional compositions, poetic verses, or narrative text, provide thematic substance and emotional context to a musical piece. In classical traditions, Sahitya, the text, plays a crucial role in shaping bhava, guiding the musician's improvisation and the audience's emotional reception. The interaction between raga and sahitya becomes essential in devotional genres like kritis, bhajans, and abhangs, where spiritual meaning is inseparable from musical form. Dance, perhaps the most interdisciplinary of all arts, relies on multiple sources. Its narrative and emotional content is largely drawn from literature, epics, Purans, devotional poetry, and classical texts. Its rhythmic structure is inseparable from music, both melodic and percussive. The dancer embodies visual art through sculptural postures, geometric alignments, and iconographic references. Even costume and makeup design originate from visual art traditions, contributing to the dancer's transformation into a character or a deity. Theatre exemplifies the most holistic combination of art forms. A dramatic production draws from literature for script and dialogue, music for atmosphere, song, sequences, and emotional cues, dance for stylized movement, gestures, and dramatic expression, painting and design for sets, props, backgrounds, and color symbolism, costume and crafts for character portrayal and period authenticity. Indian theatre traditions like Kathakali, Yakshagana, Kudiyattam are especially rich in interdisciplinary integration, where music, dance, acting, costume, craft, and ritual come together. Visual arts also play a key supportive role in performing traditions. Sculptural canons, such as those in the Shilpa-Shastra, inform body position. In dance, temple murals and miniature paintings influence storytelling patterns, gesture sequences, and even the aesthetics of stage presentation. Costumes, jewelry, masks, and props are designed by artisans whose craft are part of the visual art lineage. In the contemporary era, the rise of cinema, digital media, and interdisciplinary installation has amplified this interdependence. A single film integrates scripting and literary narrative, direction and theatrical staging, choreography, music composition, visual designs and cinematography, animation, graphics, and digital art. Similarly, digital installations and performance art merge soundscapes, projection design, movement, and sculptural elements. These hybrid forms reflect the natural evolution of interconnected arts in a technological mediated world. Taken together, these examples show that no art form in India stands alone. Each one supports, influences, and enhances the others. This interconnectedness creates richer artistic experiences and preserves cultural meaning more effectively. It highlights the Indian belief that true creativity emerges when different art forms interact and blend rather than remain isolated. Now, let us study about the necessity of cross-literacy among artists. In a cultural ecosystem where the arts are interdependent and meaning is constructed through shared aesthetic principles, cross-literacy, the ability to understand and appreciate multiple art forms, becomes essential for artists. While mastery in a single discipline is the traditional path, familiarity with related art significantly enhances an artist's expressive depth, technical clarity, and interpretative insight. For instance, a dancer who studies the fundamentals of painting or sculpture gains an acute understanding of spatial composition, symmetry, and the geometry of the human body. Exposure to the Shilpa Shastras or temple sculptures enhances a dancer's command over karanas, sthanas, and bhedas. The visual training sharpens their awareness of lines, contours, balance, and stillness, elements crucial to creating aesthetically powerful stage images. A musician who engages with literature and poetics becomes more sensitive to the emotional nuance embedded in lyrics. Understanding metaphors, symbols, dhwani, and poetic meters allows the musician to interpret compositions not merely as a melodic structures but as layered aesthetic expressions. This deepens lyrical sensitivity, enriches improvisation, enhances power, and aligns musical expression with the emotional world of the text. With this, I conclude my lecture. Thank you.